Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you again. Today is Sunday, December 6th, 2020, the second Sunday of Advent, online Sunday school from Ebenezer United Church of Christ in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Advent, the current church season that we're in. And we're also going to look into a story from the Old Testament from the book of Joel. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's start talking a little bit about Advent. If you watched the online worship service from last week, you probably heard Reverend Lori start the children's sermon by saying, Happy New Year. And what she was talking about was the church year. And the church year starts with Advent and then progresses to Christmas, and from there to Epiphany, and from there to Lent, and then on to Easter, and then on to Pentecost. And I might have forgotten one season in there somewhere, but then we start over again in a year with Advent. So we celebrate 4 Sundays in Advent, and that brings us today to the second week in Advent. And there are names or themes for all 4 weeks. So the first week, which was last week, was hope. And you can see that the second word on the slide that we're looking at right now is love. And that is the theme for the second week of Advent.
Last week we created the hope candle for our Advent wreath. For this week, use those same steps to wrap paper around a toilet paper roll and create the love candle. So not only do we have the hope that God is always with us, we know God's love is always with us. This is one of the reasons why we're asked to show our love in all the ways that we can. And now we place that love candle for the second Sunday of Advent into our wreath. As you can see, the white candle behind is not lit yet. That is our Christ candle, which will be lit on Christmas Day. On this second Sunday of Advent, we've added a donkey and a cow to our manger. As we know, the baby Jesus has not been born yet. We haven't observed that yet during Advent. And during this time of waiting, we remember another set of characters, the cow and the donkey.
So as we observe these 4 Sundays of Advent, it's a time that is meant for us to deliberately think about where we are in our lives, what our relationship with God is, and as we progress toward Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the birth of Jesus, the human form of God, what are we doing with our lives? How are we acting with other people? This is a time to think and act on that as well. So today we're going to be looking at the story in the Old Testament book of Joel, chapter 2, verses 12 and 13. And this is a story about the way people acted thousands of years ago and what they were told by the prophet Joel. And while this is set thousands of years ago, as I said, it really is a story that we're very familiar with, or should be ourselves, because it's about what happens when things are good for us, and as a result, we start thinking about ourselves first. It's all about me. It's all about us. The world revolves around us. We look in the mirror and we see an image of ourselves that maybe doesn't really represent who we are. It's just who we think we are. We take things for granted. All the things that sustain us in life, food and water, become things that we consume without thinking. And that consumption can extend to things that we can buy. We've got to have it. We get greedy and self-entitled. We ignore the things going around us that aren't good. We ignore the suffering of other people. We kind of cover our eyes and our ears and our mouths, and we just continue on with our self-centered ways. Again, it's all about us. Or our reaction to different things is, meh, so what? What's that got to do with me? Let's just keep doing what we're always doing. Let's party on. So we tend to focus, when we're in that mode of behavior, on our ego. And that leads us to focus on me. It makes us cold to other people's problems, makes us resentful of other people. We're victims. We take it out on other people. We have a sense of self-importance. All those things you see in the slide on the left-hand side under ego. And that's our head talking to us. We lose our connection with the soul, or the God within us, which speaks of love, humility, sympathy, gratefulness, peace, understanding, friendliness, all those things that are the good part of us. We've lost touch with that. So this story of Joel is about a group of people, a large group of people who are in that mode. And life is very good for them, and suddenly a plague of locusts, which is an insect, invades their land, eats all their crops almost overnight. If you know anything about locust plague, or you don't, please look it up on the internet. And basically they go from having everything to having nothing. Just like that, bang. And suddenly they have to look inward. And they start by being selfish and ego. Oh, this must mean that God is punishing us for the way we've been behaving. And that's a common thought process for many people. When anything bad happens, it's because God made it happen. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about maybe that's not the right way to think about things. All these disasters that can happen in our lives are one thing, but what about the things that we do to other people? We get angry and we lash out. We exclude other people. We say things that are very, very hurtful to other people because that's where we are. We're all about ourselves and our ego. But the reality is, when we act that way, typically bad feelings catch up with us. We feel ashamed. We feel that we're not worth anything. We feel helpless. We feel fear. All of those bad feelings, which I'm going to submit to you that maybe that's the God within us speaking. We know what we've been doing isn't right. And that makes our souls hurt. And I think that's much more relevant and impactful to us than the idea of God as some sort of angry parent yelling at us. We suffer a lot of pain in our souls because of the way we act sometimes. And that should help us get refocused on our relationship with God and try to change. So here's what the 2 chapters in the book of Joel say. You can see them on the screen. These words can speak to us today. It talks about changing your life, and not just changing your life in a superficial way, but changing your life by focusing on that God that's within us and realizing that the promise that God made to humankind applies in spades here. There's an old saying, which I have to tell you that I really don't like, which is, God never gives us more than we can handle. And I really don't think that God gives us things. I think God created a universe and set things in motion, things that we can't even understand. And we are presented with things that we have to deal with. So I love the saying that says, God doesn't give us what we can handle. God helps us handle what we are given. And I think that is the God within us. So the season of Advent is an opportunity to change our lives. And we do it every year because, quite honestly, as humans, we probably need to be looking at this every year as an opportunity to say, what is my relationship with God and other people? Am I showing God's love in all the ways I can to others? And can I get away from focusing on it's all about me to it's all about how I can help and relate to others, showing God's love in all the ways I can. All right, this week, highs and lows and God sightings is from the ever dependable Aaron Robley. Aaron's high this week is that he didn't have a lot of school, so he had a lot of time to just hang out. And that is a pretty good high, isn't it? The low is that he didn't get to see his friends very much and play with them. And the God sighting that Aaron had was that says I had a really good time with family and I got to help my grandma decorate her Christmas tree. And I remember growing up, that was a great time. So good for you, Aaron. If any of you want to contribute highs, lows, and God sightings, the next slide shows you how to do that. That does it for me this week. So have a great week and stay with this video for a while longer because you're going to see lighting of the second week Advent candle and the addition of a character to the nativity scene as that gets built as we move toward Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Thanks, everybody.